for you, John?
Hey, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Comedy Factory Comedy Chat. Excited tonight. We got a Russ Gelfuso, very funny comic, is back from last night. And I asked his great friend and my great friend to come on. This guy, I call him a Rhode Island legend, Russ, because May 29th will be 29-year anniversary for Bob's Big Adventure. And then an hour with Bob, it's going to be 28 years. And I was lucky enough. I was a guest on an hour with Bob, I think about 3 times.
4 times.
4 times. Bob Venturini. Yeah, how you doing, Bob and Russ?
Good.
How you guys doing?
Hey, Russ, how are you?
Good. It seems like just yesterday I was on.
I know you guys got a lot of stories, so I'm excited about I know Bob, I went with Dave DiLorenzo, I believe it was, and Bob, and we went to Warwick Musical Theater, Don Rickles, Joan Rivers, and
oh, yeah.
Yeah, I went over to the fence. I was talking to Don Rickles. That was a great night.
That's
a great night.
You know what? I'm really disappointed in myself because I had an opportunity to see Don Rickles just before he died, go to see him, and I didn't go. I said, I'll catch him the next time.
Same thing with me. He came to Twin River.
Right.
I should have went.
I thought it was Foxwoods.
He might have went there too, but I know he was
around.
He
was at Twin River. He was at Twin River.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he did come to Twin River,
I was going to go, and it was something I had something minor to do, and I said, I'll catch him the next time. Because he did several promos for me, Russ and John. He did several promos for Bob's Big Adventure and now with Bob. And you know how he is with sarcasm and the jokes and the insults. Bob's Big Adventure, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
Well, he's going off on an hour with Bob. I can't stand up for 2 minutes. He said all kind. It was funny, some funny stuff. I used it years ago. I got to revive it, I guess.
Yeah.
One of the episodes I was on, I met Michelle, the dietitian. Michelle.
Oh yeah.
The Fusco.
Michelle. Oh, I love her.
I met her, and so I said, well, I need a dietitian, so I started calling. She helped me as good as she could, but I'm a tough nut to crack.
Oh, you did call? You did?
Yeah, I did. I went and saw her, on and off for a couple of years. She's great.
I'd go see her just to see her. Because, that woman, I've known her since she's a kid.
Yeah.
And that
beautiful girl.
She worked at Shooters when she was like 18 or 19. Yeah. And I was working at Shooters at the time. And that girl, she stood out head and shoulders above most of the girls there. Yeah. Plus, not only beauty, her personality.
Great personality. Oh, yeah, Michelle. Yeah, great. So, what kind of stories you guys have known each other? How long you guys known each other?
Oh, what was that?
Do you remember when we met?
I remember it well. I think my shoulder still hurts from meeting Bob. Bob calls me up, and we were just, what ship was that? The Fascination?
No, it was a Dynasty, I think.
No, it was a Carnival ship.
Destiny.
Was it no.
It was the Destiny of the Seas, or the Destiny, yeah.
I don't know, because they all end with ION, Fascination, Sensation, all of those ships.
Really?
Yeah, so it wouldn't have...
I don't know, because I don't have any video to prove it.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, so this is how that went. I get a call from Bob Venturini, which I've seen your show before, and I went to the telethons and stuff for the, for the
Toys for Tots.
Yeah, the Toys for Tots drives. And he says, listen, I got a TV show. And I said, yeah, I'm familiar with it. He said, well, I want you to, I want to have you, involved in the show when the ship comes up to Boston.
And that was a brand new ship.
Brand new ship. And Mickey Harrison was there, the owner of Carnival Cruise Line.
Right. Who I interviewed. Didn't I interview him?
Yeah, you did. And now, so we get there, and I'm like, Bob comes out with this camera that looked like a Volkswagen. It was like the heaviest thing. So
at the time, it was the top of the line. It was
I know, but it was heavy.
Yeah.
So anyway, he says, all right, yeah, we're going to film this whole thing. So, and I said, oh, all right, where's the cameraman? You're the cameraman. I'm like, I'm the cameraman. We got 300 people that are coming to see this ship. I'm their escort. I'm the cruise brother, not the cameraman. And I'm like, what are you, crazy? So he says, no, this will be good. And it was funny because Mickey Harrison knew me because I had met him before.
Yeah.
You know, the CEO of Carnival. And then he sees me and I'm standing there with the camera. So Bob says, here, we're going to go up the staircase. We're going to go down the staircase. And I'm holding this camera and it was heavy. And
it was a warm day too.
Yes, it was.
It was a warm day.
So
in Boston Harbor.
We had never met before. Well, we're going around the cruise ship, and then Mickey Harrison, he gave him an interview and everything.
Good interview. Good interview.
Yeah, it was wonderful. It was one to remember. It would have been nice to see it on TV, on a camera, but so anyway, finally get done. So we went to Anthony's Pier 4 for dinner.
Yeah.
We get home, and I'm beat up, and I lay down. It's like 10, 11 o'clock.
And your phone rings.
I look at the phone, and it's this guy, Bob Venturini, and I'm like, what's up? And he goes, I am going to kill you. And I'm like, what's the matter with you? And he goes, you didn't push the button on the camera.
The record.
Oh. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And he said, no, you never push play. I said, I carried that camera around for 4 hours. My shoulder's ready to break off. I didn't even get a chance to talk to the people that I invited up there.
Right. And weren't they all travel agents?
Yeah, they were group leaders, travel agents.
And you didn't press the button.
I pressed the button. I said, you never told me to do anything. I didn't know anything about it.
No, you did. You pressed the button and then you pressed the button again is what you did. That's what you told me you did. You pressed it and then pressed it again.
It was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. It was 1990.
Wow.
That's how long ago it was.
So I don't think you'll be working for Channel 10 anytime soon, Russ.
No. Then
I nearly died.
I was on Bob's show, and I remember this one was one of the better ones.
I know what you're going to talk about, too. The pocketbook. The pocketbook, right?
Pocketbook, yeah. This lady.
You're going to talk about that.
This girl was, I want to say she was from Nebraska. She was on Bob's show. So we
Beautiful girl.
Oh, yeah, she was pretty. So we walk in, and Bob was doing stuff with the other people that were going to be on. Bob Kerr was on, the guy from Cellos, I believe. And
he was from the Providence Journal, Bob Kerr.
Bob Kerr, and then Miss Rhode Island.
Yep.
So we are sitting next to the camera, this girl and I, and then, of course, the camera's facing the stage.
While I'm interviewing Bob Kerr, right?
While he was. So anyway, this girl sits down and she's got the tiara. Oops, wait a minute. Let me just get rid of this.
That's probably Channel 10 asking if you want to go to work there.
Yeah, there you go.
They're looking for a camera guy that doesn't know how to turn the camera on.
They finally got my resume. So anyway, this girl sits down. I start talking to her, and she said, "Oh, how well do you know Bob?" And I said, "Bob who?" And she said, "The guy who owns the show, running the show." And I said, "Oh, I know him from prison." And she says, "Prison?"
You're crazy.
I said, "Yeah." I said, "But his name is not Bob." I said, "I don't know what they call him Bob." She goes, "Yeah, his name's Bob. That's the name of the show." And she's pointing to the sign, An Hour with Bob.
And by the way, this woman has never met me.
Okay, so she didn't know. So I'm sitting there.
That's sick, Russ.
And then she said,
crazy.
She said, "Do you think I should wear my crown?" And I said, "Listen, I crowned my ex-wife, and I ended up in jail. That's how I met him." And I said, "I wouldn't wear it. It's just giving me bad vibes." And she goes, "All right." Then he said, "You're next," to the girl. And she said, "Would you watch my pocketbook?" And I said, "I have my eye on it since you walked in this room." And she goes, so she kind of looks at me. And so she puts it down with her coat and that tiara thing. She puts it down. So as soon as he started to interview her, I'm looking around both ways, as suspicious as I could possibly be, and I grab her pocketbook, and I put it up in front of me. And I can see her, and I'm looking at her, and her eyes keep going over to the right of the camera where the table was, where I was. So I take her wallet out, and I know she's going to be on for a while. So I got some time before, I didn't know if she was going to stop everything.
Wow.
I take her friggin' wallet out, and I take her money out. And I start counting it, and it's dark where I am because I'm in the, where the camera is in the dark, and I'm trying to count the money to make sure I take, I put it back the right amount. I don't want to get arrested. So I turn my head both ways, and I slide it into my pocket.
Unbelievable.
So she's talking to Bob, and she's got this look on her face, and she's giving me the, the malort when she's sitting there.
Well, what's amazing is that she didn't break. She didn't stop.
She didn't stop. But so then I grab her comb. I see a comb. I'm like, what else can I get that's personal? She had a little book. Don't forget, this is 1990, 91 or whatever. She had a little book. And I opened the book up, and I'm looking because I wanted to pretend like I was writing phone numbers down out of her book.
Oh, no.
And, so anyway, I'm looking through the book. I put it back in the pocketbook, and she's still talking to him, but she's not enjoying it at all now.
No.
And then I took her comb out, and I start combing my hair with her comb. She had one of those long comb things. I'm combing my hair with it. So finally, we get to the end, or she gets to the end of her little interview with Bob, and he goes, so what did it feel like when they announced that you were Miss Rhode Island? I'll never forget it because I was looking at her, and she goes, it was the happiest time of my life. So anyway, then you had some kid playing a guitar or something, and you
my God.
You said, we'll be back. We're going to bring out Russ Gelfuso from the Cruz Brothers, and this kid starts playing the guitar, and she's going, that guy stole my money. And Bob's going, what? Because the kid's playing the guitar and singing, and she goes, that guy over there stole my money. And what was your cameraman's name, Joe?
You're nuts.
It might have been Joe. It could have been Joe Filippi, or it could have been John Flanagan, one of the other.
One of them, Joe or John. So Bob goes, because he really couldn't see me where I was sitting, and he goes, who stole your money? And she goes, the guy over there. And he goes, oh, Joe, the cameraman? And she goes, no, that other guy. And I was sitting there and I was waving. And he goes, no, that's Russ from the Cruz Brothers. And so the kid was still playing. So then when I went up, she was just looking at me like, you jerk. So I sit down.
You still have your money at this point?
No. I put everything back. I put everything back. I closed the pocketbook. So then he says, Bob goes, so, because he didn't know what I had done to her. And goes, so what do you think of Miss Rhode Island? And I'll never forget the look on Bob Kerr's face. I said, well, I can kind of understand why it's unfortunately still Miss Rhode Island, because she's a little stockier than I would prefer, but she seems like a nice girl. And Bob Kerr's look like, oh my God, this guy's he's going to get punched right in the face.
Oh, man, Russ.
And when we went off the thing after, I said, I was only kidding, right? She goes, oh, yeah, that was hilarious. She goes, I was trying to pay attention to what he was saying while I was being robbed.
I couldn't believe she held her temperament. I really couldn't.
Yeah. No, but when she ever said that was the happiest time of my life, that was worth the whole thing.
He is. You're one of the craziest guys I ever met, Russ.
I'm telling you, he's also Russ. Russ is also one of the funniest people I know. Russ has done a lot of work for me when we built this house. Russ did a lot of work. He's one of the few guys that worked for me or with me that I can honestly say did a good job. I mean, I had some real guys that were supposed to be fantastic, like an electrician that I had 32 outlets that didn't, 33 outlets that didn't work when he was finished. And he was a master electrician.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
we had some fun.
remember the wall? Remember the wall down the
Oh.
center of the house, Russ?
The
thing was like
first-
the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
It was crazy. It was crazy. We built a whole other wall and brought because somebody cut a beam.
Oh, you're saying? Oh, no, I wasn't even talking about that one. I'm talking about the wall down the center of the house.
Yeah.
That was so far off. But the one you're talking about, that wall is now about 12 inches deep.
Yep.
The back wall of the house.
Yes.
So Russ, when you do the Cruise Brothers commercials, you should also we also do carpentry.
That's right. Cruises.
Good do. And everything else.
Yeah, exactly.
Jack of all trades.
No, he really is.
He did the physical therapy place on Reservoir Ave. I used to ride by. Sometimes I saw you out there. You did a great job over there.
Yeah, that came out nice. But we were putting a beam in, a huge, Bob, how long was that beam? 19?
No, 22 and a half feet.
All right, 22 and a half feet, 2 by 12.
Oh, yeah, it was all of that, yeah.
All of that. And it was one piece.
Oh, yeah. They brought it in with this big contraption from Douglas Lumber, brought it in, especially made.
But we had to put it up. So there was me, Bob, and somebody else. I can't remember who else was there, but anyway, we go to put this beam up, and we had to make a hook for one side and lift it up and then put it on the other side and then start nailing it. Well, or screwing it in, I'm on a step ladder, and Bob's holding, this was great. It was like something out of the Three Stooges. I'm the one next to the door, and he's got a piece of a 2x4 that he's holding the beam with to steady it while we put it up. And if this thing came down, it would have killed us. It was so
absolutely. Heavy. Absolutely.
And so anyway, he gets it, he puts it exactly where it's supposed to be, and then he throws the 2x4 and flips me right off the ladder, the step ladder. So I go flying up in the air, and I went right out the door. So he's like, "Are you all right?" And I'm like, "When? Before you flip me off the ladder or before?" That changed. Yeah, we had some fun over there.
That's crazy, Russ.
Oh, then there was another guy. He had a guy doing the plaster, and he wasn't.
Oh my God!
He wasn't happy with the job, and he goes, "You know what? No, this guy, I'm not paying him." So the guy didn't know who I was, and he was very simple. Let's put it that way.
Right.
So I hear him. He's upstairs, and he's doing something, and he goes, "You know, I had a job that I did, I don't know, somewhere else." He goes, "And the guy didn't pay me, and I had to go back there. I smashed all his windows."
Yeah, remember that? Yeah.
So I called Bob, and I said, "Hey, honey, I hope you're bringing a check home." And he goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Because this idiot doesn't know I'm in the basement." Right. And I just heard him say he just totaled somebody's house out because they didn't pay him. So you
paid him, Bob?
Huh? Oh, I paid him.
Yeah, you didn't want to get the house smashed up.
Hey, I go in one room. Now, this is plaster. This is a plaster job, not just a sheetrock job. I go in one room, and there's a wire hanging from the ceiling. And I go, "What the hell's that wire doing there?" He goes, "Oh, it was there." I go, "No, it wasn't. That wire was for the cameras around the property, right?" And somehow, when they were putting up the blue board, they pulled on it, and it ended up inside the house instead of outside the house. But he tried to blame it on the insulation guy. I said, the insulation guy did that 2 months ago. I would have noticed the wire hanging there. Oh. I'm not fixing that. That's not my job. This guy was terrible.
So Bob, talk about some of all the guests you've had on. Name a few of the big ones. So you had some.
How about the movies you've been in?
Well, just a couple movies. I was in Meet Joe Black.
Oh yeah.
I was one of the guests in me, and I made the cut too. I am in. You can see me in the movie.
You can see him clear.
3 or 4 times you can see me. In fact, one of the times, Anthony Hopkins does his long speech. It's his birthday, and he's up on the stage. This is down in Warwick, right? It was shot in Warwick. Oh, this part was, and he's up on the stage. I'll never forget this. 2 takes he did, and his speech was like 5 minutes long, and he didn't miss a beat. He finishes his speech. He walks off the stage. He has 2 daughters in the movie. One of his daughters is Claire Forlani, was the younger daughter, and I can't think of her name now. She won an Academy Award too. Marcia Gay Hardy. She's right in front of him. He goes over to her, hugs her, and I was right in the front row. So when he was speaking, you see the back of my head, which is obviously no good because you can't see me. But when he come off the stage, he hugged his first daughter, turned to look by the people, so the people spread, and 30 feet away is Claire Forlani. So as soon as that happened, the spread, being the idiot I am, I leaned forward and I stuck my head right in view of the camera. In fact, the camera.
I saw that.
And I'm with my son at the premiere of the movie. We're sitting in the very front row, so we're having to lift our necks up just to see the movie. But my head is this big on camera because on the screen, and my son starts yelling, "Dad, Dad, there you are, Dad, Dad!" I mean, it was so plain to see, and I could not believe that they didn't cut it out. I could not believe they did not cut that piece out.
I'm gonna have to watch that movie again and check this out.
Yeah. There was another time in the movie during the dance scene outside when the fireworks were going off. I'm dancing with my partner, who, by the way, was hosting. What's his name? Brad Pitt was living in her house right on Narragansett Avenue. There's Narragansett Boulevard, and then there's Narragansett Avenue. It's a street that goes right down to the water, and her house was right on the water.
Wow.
And he wasn't living with them. He was living across the side street from them, but he used to kind of hang out with them, and he got friendly with the daughter, the 7-year-old daughter. He used to kind of joke and play with the daughter. And this girl was very pro Brad Pitt. None of the extras liked him. They thought Brad Pitt was a twit, and as did I. In fact, there was one scene, actually it didn't make the movie, of course. Brad Pitt's mother and sister came to the set, and they're sitting up high on the hill as the scene's going on, right? So being me, I get over in the director's chair, it has the director name on the chair, right? High chair. Nobody was sitting in it. So I go sit in it. I'm sitting right next to Brad Pitt's mother and Brad Pitt's daughter. And I mean, the people are like, he's going to get thrown out. Because I didn't want to be in there. I didn't plan it. I went down there because I wanted to do a show on the making of a movie. And somebody said, "Oh, you'd be good in this movie. You're perfect for this." I didn't try out for it. I didn't send in a picture, nothing. And so I sit down next to them and I go, the 2 women, I go, "Oh, you're the Pitts," or something like that. You're all the Pitts or something like that. And everybody started laughing, including them, by the way. They even laughed.
I got to tell you a funny Brad Pitt story. A friend of mine was going to nursing school and at CCRI, and Brad Pitt was working on some degree. It was some kind of a psychology degree or something. But anyway, while he was filming this movie, and, he was taking something like one course at CCRI. So my friend was a nursing student, and Brad Pitt lost the keys to this car that he had, this new Audi. He couldn't find the keys to it.
Yeah.
So he was an unknown at the time. For her, she never heard of him. She's not a movie buff at all. And actually, I said, "You never heard of Brad Pitt?" And she said, "My boyfriend watches porn. If he wasn't in porn," she said, "I wouldn't know him." And if you ever met this woman, you'd know that I'm not making it up at all. So anyway, her girlfriend, my friend's girlfriend said, "Can you do me a favor? This weird guy in our class, he lost his keys to his car, and he needs a ride back to his house. He's renting a house here, and he needs a ride back. So she's like, all right, but I don't have a lot of time. And so there's Brad Pitt. He's standing out in front of CCRI, and he's got like leopard skin boots on, pink sunglasses, like dressed up like a freak, you know, for Rhode Island. And so she goes, you need a ride? And he goes, yeah, I really appreciate this. So he gets in the car with her, and he goes, I really appreciate you not calling your friends. And she goes, calling my friends for what? And he goes, you know, telling them that I'm in the car. And what do I care?
Oh, no.
And yeah, he's like, you don't know who I am? And she's like, no. Why? Did you do something wrong? And he's like, no, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm Brad Pitt. And she goes, well, that's good. My name's Mary Ann. So he's riding. He goes, you never heard of me? And she says, no. He goes, well, do you know Thelma and Louise? And she goes, no, we just started this class. I don't know everybody in it. Yeah. And so he goes, no, I don't mean they're in the class. They're not students. You never saw the movie Thelma and Louise? And she goes, is it a porno? And he goes, no. And she goes, well, that's what my boyfriend watches.
Wow.
And yeah, and the whole way there, he goes, I don't believe this. Honestly, I feel like this is some kind of a prank. You never heard of me. And no. And he goes, you know, my name's not, because first he said, you know, my name's not really Brad. And she goes, no. Why? And he said, no, my agent changed my name. And he goes, she's like, why do you have an agent? And that's when he said, you don't know who I am. And he said, I honestly would love to do a movie about you. You are the first person I ever met post Thelma and Louise who doesn't know who I am. Oh, and then so finally she said he was kind of like yelling at her. He's like, I'm a sex symbol. I'm an international sex symbol. She goes, you're not gay? And he goes,
and you won?
she goes, you're not gay? And he goes, no, I'm not gay. I'm a sex symbol. And she goes, for guys? And he's like, this has got to be a joke. Somebody must have set me up for this. And she's like, buddy, you think a lot of yourself. And I guess, was he going out with Gwyneth Paltrow?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. She was at the house. And he goes, so he says, you want to come in? You know, my girlfriend's Gwyneth Paltrow. Do you want to come in? And she's like, does she go to CCRI? And he goes,
no way.
He goes, I'm done. He says, no, she does not go to CCRI, but you can have lunch with us. She goes, I got to get out of here. I've got things to do.
No way.
Yeah. And she goes, plus I wouldn't just walk in some stranger's house. And he's like, I want your phone number. He goes, this has been a real eye-opener that you never heard of me. And that was, I was dying when she was telling me this.
Wow.
Stuff.
Does that blow her mind now that he was Brad Pitt?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because all of a sudden he started, you know, he was in different movies and stuff, but that was the way it was. But I'll tell you, a buddy of mine who recently passed, I think I mentioned, a friend of mine named Howard who lived out in, he lived in L.A., he met the Rolling Stones. He met Mick Jagger because he had a business out in Los Angeles. He met Elvis Presley. He sold him he had a tire store in Beverly Hills. He had Firestone in Beverly Hills, and he met Elvis. And just absolutely incredible stories. But two of them, I know what time is it? 7:30. I don't know I don't want to commandeer the whole thing.
Go ahead.
We got time.
If you ever met, I was so fortunate when I was coming home from Florida, I stopped to see my friend Howard because he had since moved to Nashville and he had cancer. And he said, you have to stop and see me before you go. And every time I could sit and listen to him for hours because he was just an amazing guy. But when he was in LA, his accountant was at Capitol Records, the Capitol Records building. And there's a very famous coffee shop in the bottom of the building there.
Yeah.
So he said, I'm in there one morning waiting for my accountant. I got there a little early. I sit down next to this guy. He said, I never saw anybody so ugly in my life. And the guy said, hi. He said, how you doing? My name's Howard Brayman. And the guy says, hi, my name's Mick Jagger. And he goes, how you doing, Mick? He goes, what do you do for a living?
Oh no.
Yeah. And he said, I'm with the Rolling Stones. And he goes, oh, the magazine? No, the band. And he goes, the band. He goes, oh, what do you do for them? He goes, well, I sing, I write, and I play guitar. And Howard was the most blunt. He was just a nice
Don't
guy.
tell me. He told him how ugly he was.
No, he said, he goes, so you're going to try to make a go of it? And he said, no, we're doing all right, Howard. And he said, in hindsight, I remember seeing the guy behind the counter looking at me like, this can't even be real. He doesn't know who Mick Jagger is. So anyway, he says, listen, this was like 1971. And so he said, listen, can I do you and your parents a favor? And he says, what's that, Howard? Have you been outside here? Do you see what the people look like in Hollywood? He goes, do you see what the other musicians look like? You want a job that your parents will be proud of? I can get you selling tires. You can maybe work in the back. I'll give you a job. He goes, you're lucky. I can hire you.
Mick Jagger.
Yeah, Mick Jagger. And he goes,
wow.
no, Howard, I'm pretty happy with it.
I'm all right. I'm all right. Yeah.
So he goes, listen, I'm trying to be nice. Do your parents a favor. Get a job. Get a real job.
Oh, man.
He said,
get the plastic surgery.
Yeah. So anyway, now it's time. Howard's got to leave. Looks at his watch. He goes, Mick, I got to go. And so Mick Jagger, it was like $3 for the whole thing. The coffee, Mick Jagger had like tea and something else. But so he says, Howard, I got Howard's check. And Howard goes, you don't get it, do you? You better save your money. You're going to be in for a big surprise, buddy. He goes, so he says, I took out a $5 bill and he threw it on the table. He goes, I got this meal. You worry about the rest of them.
Wow.
So he walks out the door. So he had come back. He was having his taxes done and stuff. So he had to come back to sign the returns and everything. And so he goes back in again, and there's all the Rolling Stones. They're down in a booth, and Mick Jagger spotted Howard. And he goes, Howard, how are you? Now, he had gone upstairs to see his accountant, and he goes, Jesus Christ, I saw the ugliest guy I ever saw in my life downstairs. This kid thinks he's going to be a rock star. And so the accountant's like, who is it? He goes, I don't know, Mick Jagger from the Rolling Stones. He goes, you don't know who Mick Jagger is? He goes, no, I never heard of him. He goes, they're one of the hottest bands in America now. He goes, you got to be kidding.
In the world.
He goes, well, I just offered him a job changing tires. And,
That's nuts, man.
so as soon as he saw him, he called him over, and he goes, so Howard goes, you know something? You're an asshole. He goes, why didn't you tell me you were famous? and they all started laughing. But another one, Howard had, it was New Year's Eve. I guess it was New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve or something. And there was a girl in his office that he was really interested in. She had started working for him, and he really was interested in her. So they had the office party and everything, and he said, you know what, let's get out of here. Let's go to the Rainbow Room. And at the time, I don't know if you remember, if you watch any of the documentaries on John Lennon, when he had the kid, I don't know if it was Julian or one of them, but Yoko or Oko, whatever her name is, she was in New York with the baby. He had just had the baby, and he was in California drinking and drugging and having orgies and stuff. So anyway, Howard, like for about a month, would have a drink with John Lennon. He'd see him upstairs in the Rainbow Room, because that's where you had to know somebody to get upstairs.
Right.
And so anyway, he got friendly with him. And, Howard, very unpretentious. Everybody was the same. And so he got to be friendly with Lennon. And he said one night, I drank too much as usual, and I really got honest. And he said, you know what? You could have any girl in the world, right?
No, I know where this is going.
He goes, why aren't you back in New York with your
Right.
baby and your wife where you belong? You don't need to prove anything to any woman or man on the planet. And so he ended up back with Yoko and their son. And so Howard came back. It's like a month later. Anyway, it's New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve. And Lennon had the family in LA because it was cold. And he had, he took him from New York.
Now, wasn't Julian? Isn't this kid's name Julian?
It's one of them. There's one Julian. There's another one. I can't remember the other kid's name. Sean, right.
Sean Lennon,
So maybe
yeah.
it was Julian Lennon. Anyway, so he says to this girl, come on, we'll go upstairs in the Rainbow Room. You can get us up there? Yeah, I know everybody. They go upstairs, and John Lennon is sitting at the bar, and the girl's tugging on Howard, saying, that's John Lennon. He goes, yeah, I know. He's a friend of mine, kind of, from up there. She goes, you know him? I know him. John Lennon sees Howard, and he says to the bartender, get me a piece of paper and a pen, please. And he says, so the girl's just in there. She doesn't know what's going on. He goes, Mr. Brayman, would you give me your autograph? And he goes,
no way.
Yeah. John Lennon did that with Howard. He goes,
no way.
yeah, I usually don't, but all right. And he goes, what's your name? He goes, it's John with an H. He goes, John. And this girl's like, what the freak is going on? And he goes, you married, John? And he goes, yes. What's your wife's name? Yoko. He goes, how do you spell that? And he goes, all right. He goes, you want me to personalize it? Would you? And he goes, yeah, sure. And he goes,
That's
right
crazy.
and slow. Yeah, imagine that. That's what kind of a guy John Lennon was.
Wow.
Yeah. But Elvis Presley was the best one of all. 1970 or 71 is when they came out with the Firestone 500, the red line tires.
Right, yes.
That was the year the radio was introduced. Elvis Presley bought 7 Eldorados and 1 Chrysler Town and Country wagon for the Memphis Mafia.
Yep.
They bought El Caminos. They bought, 8 cars, whatever. Anyway, so they had 8 cars. Howard owned Firestone of Beverly Hills. So that guy, what was his name? Red West or something. The guy that was his manager came in during the day and he said, you know who I am? I represent Elvis. He's got 8 vehicles that he
Colonel. They called him the Colonel.
No, not the Colonel. The guy that was his bodyguard.
Oh.
He's the one that was in school with Elvis when they were in grade school together. And he
Right.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So
In Mississippi, by the way.
Yeah.
Elvis Presley was born in Mississippi. I went to his home.
Did you?
Yes.
So this guy says, we want to have Elvis wants to come in. He wants to pick out mag wheels and he wants to go around the cars with all new tires. So Howard says, all right, I'll close the shop down and I'll tell the guys to go home and I'll just have my wife and my son and my daughter here. So he says, all right, I'll bring Mr. Presley in. So he brings him in and he came in and Howard had some stuff, sandwiches and stuff for him. And he called Firestone and got an 8mm tape, a Super 8 tape with the radial tire on it. He said, I got Elvis Presley coming in and I want to show him these new tires. So they gave him the promotional tape. So he comes in and he's calling him Mr. Brayman. He goes, listen, and if you ever met Howard, he's about 5'3", 5'4", and he was a little Jewish guy and he was a hot shit. And he goes, listen, your name's Elvis. My name is Howard. He goes, okay, Howard. He said he was such a kind and polite guy. He was like a school kid. So he said, I got something that's going to knock your socks off. And he puts this tape on. He starts rolling the tape. And, of course, it's a friggin' tire. The car goes around the track and it shows the radial thing. And he said about 3-4 minutes into the tape, Elvis stands up and he goes, all right, we'll take him. And Howard stands in front of him and he goes, wait a minute, what are you doing? And he goes, I'm sorry, what's the matter? He goes, I don't know. How would you like it if you said, hey, I got a new song, Howard, and you started singing? And I go, hey, that's great. I'm out of here. so he goes, I'm sorry. He goes, listen, it cost me $11 to have this tape air-shipped here.
Right. I want to play the rest of it.
From Ohio. I bought sandwiches. You didn't need anything. I brought sodas. You didn't need anything. And now what? You're just going to get up and leave? And he sat right down, watched the rest of this tape, it was only like an 8-minute tape or something. And he said, all right, Howard, I'll take the tires. I'll take them. And yeah, we want them. And he goes, all right. He says, listen, I'll give you $25 for each tire, rim, hubcap, and lug nuts that's coming off the car. There were 40 tires, so it's $1,000. That's in 1970. I think a car. What the hell would a car cost? $1,500?
Yeah.
$2,000. And Presley looked at him and he said, Howard, if I gave you that credit back, would you buy your beautiful wife something nice? And he goes, yeah, sure. so he's like, all right, good. And Elvis was playing at Caesars that weekend. And he said, I really want you and your wife to be my guests. You call that other guy, the Italian guy, the manager. He said, he'll set it all up for you. They had like a suite. They had all comped. Everything was comped. And then he gave them $500 in free play. That's big money in 1970. And so Howard said, you know what I did? No.
Cashed it in.
Yeah, he said, I went over to the cage. I got the chips. I walked over to the next cage. Cash me out.
Yep.
But he knew everybody. He just passed away.
We got to have a show some night just on Howard. He's got a lot of stuff on him.
Hey, you mentioned the Caesar's Palace. I know you know this, Russ. My nephew got married 3 years ago. To a beautiful Brazilian woman, right? And not only is he my nephew, he's my godson.
Yeah.
And his father's died a long time ago, so I'm like the closest thing. So, of course, I'm going to the wedding anyway.
Sure.
So I go out to the wedding. He gets married. You talk about Elvis. He was married by Elvis.
Oh, no kidding.
Not the real Elvis.
Yeah.
And get this one, right next door to that show, Pawn Stars.
Oh, yeah.
It's right across the parking lot.
Oh.
I went in the place after the wedding. I went in the place to check it out. But the reception was at Caesar's Palace. And when Elton John was the star attraction of Caesar, they have the in-house person. Well, he not only had his own suite and everything, but he had his own nightclub inside of Caesar's Palace.
Wow.
And the general public could not go in it. Well, my nephew's reception was in that.
Oh, nice.
Club. It's a 2-level club, and it's open in the center. So if you're on the second of the balcony, you can look right down. And the food was out of this world. I mean, and the cake cost like $2,500. I mean, it's great. And it was all paid for by my nephew's boss. He has 2 bosses. They're both from England, and they own this international security company.
Oh.
They do the security for all the red carpet events, in Vegas and California and LA and wherever they have them, all the hit the stars, the movie stars, the singers, anybody that's famous that needs security. They supply the security all over the world for them.
Wow.
And don't you know, this guy, one of the partners, is good friends with Elton John.
Wow.
And he asked Elton John if he could use his place for my nephew's one of his top guys.
Nice.
Let him have that place. So we had the party, and get this one, on the walls, all over the walls were pictures of Elton John. And there's even one huge picture, like a 6x6 photograph of Elton John in bed with Elizabeth Taylor.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Yeah, how good is that, huh?
Jesus, Bob.
But they had some real shots you would never see. I've never seen anywhere. This was a private club. This was a private club for him when he goes to Vegas. It still is. It's close to the general public. It's a special entrance to get in the place. I never obviously I never knew it existed, and neither did most other people.
My cousins.
But it was absolutely phenomenal.
My cousin worked on. They worked in a nightclub off the Strip, owned by Johnny Russo, who was the son-in-law in The Godfather, the one that got strangled and kicked his feet through the windshield.
Oh,
and
yeah.
my cousins played in his band, and I'll never forget one. So we used to leave because we lived in LA. We'd drive across and we'd get to Vegas, and I'd call my cousin, say, hey, you working tonight? Yeah, I'll be there. All right. Well, Johnny Russo was going out with Dionne Warwick at the time, and
Wow.
And she was playing in one of the clubs, but this place was freaky. You pull up, there's a big metal door with bars on it. And I don't know if you guys remember the albino giant that was in like the James Bond movie.
Yeah, I remember.
He was the doorman in this place.
Wow.
And you bang on the door and he'd slide this metal thing across and he'd look at you with those pink eyes looking down at you. And they'd say, yeah. I say, yeah, I'm here to see Johnny and Eddie. And who are you? I'm Russell, his cousin from Rhode Island. All right. And he'd slide the door open. Well, we're in there one night. And now this guy, it was called the State Street Cafe, Johnny Russo's State Street Cafe.
Yeah.
And he got drunk every single night. One night we're in there. Dionne Warwick is in there. She just came from doing a show. And he had a full kitchen. And right on the bar, in the back of the bar, he had a picture of the Godfather wedding scene. I just never forgot how wide this picture was. It was incredible.
Yeah.
We were just watching the movie, and I said, Jesus, that's that same picture. Anyway, so she comes in. He's already gassed out of his mind, insulting people, saying all kinds of stupid stuff. So she sits down. He's like, the great Dionne Warwick is here, everybody. And the poor woman just wanted to eat.
Right.
So she sits down. They got a big plate in front of her, and she starts eating. It's like a midnight. And all of a sudden he goes, who wants to hear a song by Dionne Warwick?
No.
And she's standing. They got the spotlight on her. She's got a spoonful of like mashed potatoes. Oh, he was unrelenting. And he's like, who wants it? Of course, these idiots are all, yeah, egging him on. Well, he ended up, so she had to stop eating. She did a song right at the table, basically. He goes over with the microphone. He goes, come on, let's hear a song.
Wow.
But the funniest one was one night we're in there. It was like a Saturday night. And he's gassed, and he had a live broadcast from State Street, the Johnny Russo State Street Cafe.
Right.
And, he's on, and he's drunk, and he starts making fun of Wayne Newton.
Oh,
and I'm sitting there, and he's going, he takes so many hormones, he grew an eyelash on his lip. And I said to my friend, I was with my buddy, and I said, I hope this isn't really going over the wire. And sure enough, within 15 minutes, there were a bunch of guys outside.
Oh, yeah. Because he was Mr. Vegas.
He was connected big time.
Yep.
And they said, you tell him, he says one more word about him, about Mr. Newton. The boys showed right up.
Yep.
Crazy place.
You'll never speak again.
Right.
Yep.
Is he still alive?
Yeah, he's still alive.
He's still alive. Hey, I got one more for you. Talk about California. I was in California. My grandfather was a very successful man. He left here right after I was born, as it turned out. And he left his wife, my grandmother. He moved to California with $600. He became a multimillionaire. I used to go out and visit him every year. He lived in Newport Beach.
Oh, that's funny.
And check this out. Not only Newport Beach, there's a little tiny sliver of an island in Newport Beach Harbor, and it's called Lido Sod, S-O-D, right? Look it up. It's a little, you drive over a little causeway bridge, and there's houses all around, and there's a row of houses in the center. They're worth a lot less, of course. But his house was right at the, like, not really a corner, right at kind of the corner. All the houses faced outward. And you remember the cannery was over there in Newport Beach? It was a famous club and whatever. You would look, I mean, you could swim to it. That's how close it was. Well, anyway, he says to me one time, I don't know, we got on the subject. He owned that house, of course, and he owned a 14-unit condo complex with gated community, 14 condos. There were two buildings, I mean, two condos in each building, right? So there's 7 buildings. It was right next to the newspaper in Casa Mesa. Anyway, he says to me one, I don't know how we get on the subject of people, and he says, yeah, one of my tenants is the guy that played in that movie. I can't think of the movie. He's saying this, and I'm trying to think of it too. He says, now I can't think of his name. Gregory Peck. I'm trying to think of the movie. What was the movie he was in? The famous movie?
Kill a Mockingbird.
There you go. To Kill a Mockingbird. I go, come on, Gramps. He goes, no, he's one of my tenants. I go, come on, busting, throwing bullshit. He goes, come on, get in the car. So we get in the car and we leave, go over the causeway, and then we go to Casa Mesa, and we go in the gated community. We go to a door, and sure enough, there's a name on the thing. And I go, nah, it can't be the same one. He goes, no. Ring the doorbell. He stood back, opened the door, and sure enough, there he is, to Kill a Mockingbird.
Wow.
Yep. He goes, I want to introduce you to my grandson who thinks I'm bullshitting him.
Okay.
Yeah.
I loved Gregory Peck back in the day. He was great.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And he died a couple of years after that, right? My mother was an only child, right? And she was in touch with him. They communicated by phone all the time. My mother would never fly, so she would never go out and see him. And I used to say to Mom, I'll drive you across country. No, I'm not going to see him. He wants to see me, he'll come here. I go, Ma, first of all, he don't have the time. Anyway, the last time I saw him, he had sold a bunch of his property for $5.6 million. And this is, we're talking about 25 years ago.
Yeah, that's money.
It ended up, he dies. So I go out to represent the family, represent my mother. She's an only child. He did marry, and she had one kid, but not by him. She had one kid before she met him, right? And he was my age. And she was like a half an actress, she did a couple little bit parts, but never made it. So he married her. And so we go to the thing, and remember the TV series LA Law?
Yeah.
LA Law was based on this law firm. It's either the first or the second largest law firm in the United States. Oh. And 17 floors, all lawyers. 17 floors of lawyers. This is where you want a plane to go into.
Yeah, no kidding.
Anyway.
Drop a bomb.
So they read the will. My mother gets nothing. Wow. Nothing.
Wow. Are you serious?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Absolutely couldn't believe it. So I'm astounded. So I leave. I go out the big conference room, and I go to the elevator. Elevator door opens. I walk in the elevator, totally dejected. Now I got to tell my mother this. Now, by the way, when my mother was a kid, he bought her a horse, a pony. She had everything as a kid. He lived in Cumberland, grew up in Cumberland. Yeah. And he was well known in Cumberland. Gene Dugas was his name. And before the door could close, this belonged in a movie. Before the door could close, an arm goes in, opens the door. This guy comes in the elevator with me, young guy, an attorney. He pushes the button to go down. So we're talking. He goes, you can protest that will. He says, you can't, but your mother can, because they came, his wife and his wife's kid, who was my age, took him to that very law firm a year earlier and had him change his whole will, took my mother right out of the will. And he's telling me, he says, he was a frail old man. He was totally being controlled by them. You could flip that, at least get half of his. By this time, he had over $12 million. And yeah, that's what he had left. And plus the house that she was living in.
Wow.
Not including the house that she's living in. He had $12 million in assets because he had that 14-unit complex.
Yeah.
He owned a couple other property. In fact, ironically, he had a Winnebago like mine. Anyway, So we get down, we end up leaving together, and we end up going for coffee, and he's explaining the whole thing. He says, I shouldn't tell you this. I shouldn't be telling you this. I could lose my job for it. But, I'm working for them, and I'm telling you how to beat them. He says, she could beat them easily because your mother had contact with your father, your grandfather all these years. You've had contact with your grandfather all these years. In all honesty, I thought I was going to grab something too, by the way. I thought for sure he had me in his will. Anyway, I called my mother. You know what she says? Screw him. If he didn't leave me anything, I said, Ma, he was a frail old man. They took advantage of him. No, I'm not going out there. She said, I don't want to fly. I said, Ma, I'll fly back and I will drive you across country. I will take the ride and come back and drive you across country to fight this. Didn't want to hear it.
Wow. So much for the comedy hour tonight, huh? I'm ready to jump out the window.
So much comedy there, huh?
Yeah.
Is this
Yeah,
fun?
and I got a better one. I got a guy who's dying.
So what are you about comedy? What have you been doing about comedy there, John?
Not much, Bob. Not much. Everything's all the rooms I booked are mostly waiting out the pandemic. So that's why I turned to these Zoom talk shows.
Right.
But you're keeping it alive.
Yeah, well, we get to see each other, get to see the comics, and we talk, we have fun. Russ comes on. I want to have you on again, Bob. There's a lot more to talk about with you guys. You guys got more
next time,
stories.
I promise, if I ever come on again, it won't be a down. It will be fun stuff.
This was great tonight. I had a ball listening to you guys, man.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, I've said it before. I mean, when I'm with Russell, one after the other, he starts telling his stories. And I've told him that he should go on stage. And Russell, have I not said this to you numerous times?
Many.
Go on stage and just talk about your stories. Talk about the things you've done, the people you met, all this stuff. I mean, it is hilarious. And it's real. It's real.
When I first got into Dave DiLorenzo introduced me to John, I think I had to buy him 2 tires. It was something crazy. He's like, listen, I need a couple of tires for my car. I said, well, listen, I don't know how I met Dave. I can't remember how, but he said, I got to, because I said, I want to try stand-up. And so, because my friend told me he was doing stand-up. Yeah. And he was living in Cleveland. And he said, yeah, I'm doing it, because we both lived in L.A., and we never tried it. We lived there for, I don't even know, 5 years. Never tried it. Then
I'm amazed that you didn't try it. I'm amazed.
I don't know. You know what? I always thought it was something that, like, you had to be born to do, basically. You had to be a chosen one. And so, anyway, matter of fact, I'll tell you what. One night, the guys from Rhode Island came out to L.A., and I was living in West Hollywood. And they said, we're going to go to the Comedy Store. I said, all right. We go to the Comedy Store, and we're waiting to get in, and this little guy comes over with a trench coat on and one of those crazy hats, and he was collecting money, like he was seating people for tips. And he goes, hey, you want a better seat? And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. And he goes, give me a couple of bucks. I'll see if I can't get you up in the front. Well, it wasn't like you had to go through a gang fight to get there. I'm like, I said, well, I don't want a window and an aisle. I just want a seat. I really don't care. He goes, give me a couple of bucks. I'll see what I can do for you. I'm like, all right, go talk to somebody. And then he goes, come on, follow me. So we sit down, and my friend said, that guy just ripped you off. And I'm like, who gives a shit? We're in. That's all. I just wanted to come to the Comedy Store. So we're sitting there, we're waiting. All of a sudden, they start bringing out comics. And then here comes the doorman or the usher. He's on stage. And I'm like, I guess you don't have to be too talented to get on stage over here. Well, this guy starts going nuts. And I said to the 2 guys that were with me, I said, you see this guy? He's going to be famous. Get out of here. He's going to be famous. It was Sam Kinison who said,
yeah.
He was doing that thing, the ooh, with and I said, he's different. He's going to be famous. It was 2 weeks later, he was on Johnny Carson.
Wow.
Serious? Wow.
Yes. Imagine that. And he was broke. He was just there, but he had the talent. He had the material.
And he got his break.
He got it. But you know what? He was smart.
On the Johnny Carson show, that was it back in the day.
Yep.
That was
That's
it.
wild, Russ. That's wild.
Yeah.
You were on Carson. You made it.
Well,
We gotta,
you got to wrap it up.
yeah, we gotta. What do you got, Russ? What do you got?
No, it's so funny. My cousin, my cousins from Johnston, one of my cousins was a gangster, and he got driven out of Rhode Island, and he ended up in L.A. So his sister followed him out, and her husband, and they got a job in the studios, Laura Ma Studios, and all of a sudden, my cousin Arthur. I don't know if you ever heard of Dr. Vaca. Dr. Vaca, no? Yeah, he's in Johnston. Anyway, it's his brother. His brother Arthur was my cousin's husband. So they said, Arthur's got a job at the studios building the sets, all the sets at the time. And one of them was Hill Street Blues.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, so I went out, and they picked me up at the airport and brought me. He said, I'm working right now. We got to go back to the studio. I didn't even punch out. So anyway, we're walking through the studio, the set of Hill Street Blues, and he's yelling to the guys up in the guy wires there, up above our heads, building the stages or whatever. And they're going, where are you from? This guy's like, Park Avenue, Gansett Avenue. I'm like, oh my God. I said, what'd you do, move half of Cranston out here? He goes, I did. He says, my friends' kids wanted to come and move out here and stuff, so I got them jobs in the studio.
Yeah.
Anyway, he goes, all right, they're filming. And Dan Tremonti, that's the only guy's name I know because I kind of remembered it because I was going back home in a couple of weeks. My father and mother said, go out there, see if you like it. If you like it, then move. But go stay with Art and Marge and see, if you like it. So anyway, they said, all right, they're filming. They were filming an episode. I'm sitting at one of the desks, the police desks, and Dan Tremonti was on with somebody else. They were doing this thing. And I remembered the lines kind of, and about maybe 3 or 4 weeks later, I'm back home in Cranston, and Hill Street Blues came on, and all of a sudden I heard the lines. And I said to my mother, I was in the room when they filmed that thing. That was the weirdest feeling I ever had. And
that's crazy, huh?
Yeah. Very cool.
Wow.
Anyway. Hey,
we got to wrap this up.
Yeah.
Bob, 28 years, and our Bob, 29 years in May. Bob's Big Adventure. That's he's been a Rhode Island institution. Everybody knows you. A lot of people know Russ, the Cruz brothers.
That's right.
A lot of people. Everybody I talk to, they know the Cruz brothers. Russ,
yeah.
so you guys are kind of
Perrotta too.
Yeah. Well, you guys are two Rhode Island institutions. I mean,
but John, how many people have you brought into comedy? You always made everybody feel comfortable.
I like helping people. I helped a lot of people get in the business.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah, I take them under my wing and to try to help them out. This is rough times now. Hopefully things will get better eventually,
Yeah, but you know what? If they're smart, they're going to practice. They're going to, bring their best game when it opens up again. So, when I was with you, I'll never forget, I kept changing because my friends, you had to bring somebody. So I always changed my material. And one night you said, why do you keep changing your material?
Right.
And I'm like, because my friends are here. Forget about those 5 people or 10 people. Worry about the other 100 in the crowd.
That's right.
And that's when I learned how to do it. And if you didn't say it, I would have never known.
Yeah, if you got something a joke that works, you got to use it.
You got to play
now,
it.
if your 5 friends come again, they hear it again. The other 80 people are laughing. That's what you want.
They're only hearing it the first time.
Right.
And if a joke is funny, I've seen guys, I laugh at that. I know the joke coming and I still laugh.
Sure.
Yes, right.
Some of these different acts,
I saw Stephanie Peters the first time, and I'll never forget. I went home and I talked to people the next day. I said, you won't believe what happened. This guy was on the phone during this woman's act. And then when I heard that she was going to be on again, I went to see her again at the Comedy Connection, and it happened again. I'm not too bright. It took the 3rd time. And I'm like, wait a minute. This is part of the act. I never realized it.
Yeah.
So, no, but I appreciate it. You always help me out. And
and I'll help you out again, Russ. We're going to do more down the road.
My jokes will get darker and
I
darker.
always enjoy your act. You always made me laugh.
Hey, Russ, will they get darker than your backdrop?
Yeah. No. Usually a tanker comes by. They may,
All I see is a head. I see a head.
Before we go, Bob, who are some of your favorite guests? I know you had some big people on there. You probably got so many.
One of my favorite guests, believe it or not, she's on Channel 2 in New York City. Her name is Christine Johnson. She's the #1 TV station in the country, #1 location, New York City. She started, and I had her on my show, and she was the second banana on Channel 12. And I said, you're going to be big. In fact, someday you are going to fill in for Katie Couric, who at the time was the girl on Channel 10, right, on NBC, right?
Yeah.
Well, I got a call a few months later. She was on my show 3 times. Third time she was on, as luck would have it, my show used to air down the Cape too. And this guy was in from California visiting, and he happened to catch the show. And he called his brother, who was some big shot, I guess, in California, an agent. And he said, you got to see this girl. So he called me. He called the studio, wanted a tape, but they wouldn't release a tape without my permission. So they called me, and I talked to the guy, and I said, yeah, sure. A month later, she gets hired by MSNBC in New York, right? Now, here's the kicker. She ends up with her own show late night, like 2 in the morning, right? That lasted several months. I got a text. She goes, you will not believe this. Guess who I'm filling in for tomorrow morning? Katie Couric.
Wow.
Is that the craziest thing?
And what's her name? What's her name, Bob?
Her name is
Johnson.
Christine Johnson. KJ, I call her, KJ. I'm telling you, she was like the second banana on Channel 12. Karen Adams was the lead woman. And Christine, in fact, I even said at one point, I found out that she was behind the scenes on Channel 12 for 5 years, never got on TV. And I said, who's running that show over there? Ray Charles and I named a couple of blind people. I said, how can they not put you in front of a camera? How come they took them 5 years to put you in front of a camera? I couldn't. And this girl's gorgeous. She's up, but beautiful. Look her up, Christine Johnson. She's in New York.
I can't go without telling you one Katie Couric story because I only have one.
We'll end it with that. Go ahead.
All right. We were in New York City on I can't remember the name. It was a Carnival ship. It was the first non-smoking ship.
Oh, I was on the first non-smoking.
The Triumph?
No, it was, it'll come to me, the Paradise or something like that.
It might have been the Paradise, but anyway, it was the first non-smoking ship.
I was on it with Zachary.
I was on the inaugural cruise.
Yep.
And Katie Couric dedicated the ship. She christened the ship because her husband died of cancer.
Yep.
And so the Cancer Foundation and everything made her they made a big deal of it. And then, so anyway, I was with Mickey Arison again, the CEO of Carnival Cruise Line, right, and Katie Couric and her son. She had a little boy. He was probably 7 or 8. I'll never forget this because to this day, I still laugh about it. We're going up the stairs. We're going up the staircase, and Mickey Arison gave the little boy a model of the ship. And he said, here, I want you to have this. And so this kid, so now Katie Couric and Mickey Arison are talking, and this little kid's holding the ship, and he says, I can have this? And he says, Mommy, I can have this? And Katie goes, yes, honey, you can have it. And he goes, when we leave the ship, I can keep this. And she's trying to talk to Mickey Arison, and we're all going up this big staircase.
Right.
Turns around again, and I'm behind them. I'm right behind them. And she goes, yes, honey, Mr. Arison gave that to you. So the freaking kid, now he goes, so we walk a couple more steps, and everybody's trying not to fall down the stairs. And he goes, what you're telling me is when we leave the ship, we get in the car to leave, I can take this with me. And she turns around again. She goes, it's yours. Enough. We go 3 more steps up the thing, and he goes, when I go home tonight, that ship is going to be with me. I thought her friggin' eyes were going to come right out of her head. I'll never forget it, because I thought she was going to smash it right over his head. And even Harrison was laughing, because this kid, he just kept stopping and making this big presentation. But anyway.
Hey, who's the only person to ever fill in for Jay Leno? He's only ever had one person, one time, because Jay Leno was a workaholic. He would do the show, and then he would go to Hermosa. Is it Hermosa? The next
comedy.
show? And do comedy. I saw him there. But who is the one person, one time filled in for him?
I don't know.
I don't remember.
Katie Couric.
Get out.
Is that right?
Katie Couric, look it up.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
I remember it, because he would never have anybody fill in for him.
Wow. Hey, you listen, we got to wrap it up, guys.
Yeah.
But I've had a ball. Well, I always love both of you guys, and you guys
Good to see you.
You got more stories, both of you guys. I mean, we could do an episode a week for 50 years, and we wouldn't cover everything.
2 hours
that you guys,
with Bob.
Between Bob and all the guests he's had, and Russ and all his stories.
Yeah.
You guys got a million things. I really enjoyed sitting back. Usually I do more, but I listen to you guys. I really enjoyed you guys. You guys are
same here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we could go through all the people in New York that have been on my show that started in Rhode Island. There's a lot of Rhode Islanders that started here and made it into the national limelight.
I'll tell you what, you guys, you want to come back on next month and do another one? We'll talk some more.
I have a feeling we're still going to be sitting here.
You want to come on next month? We'll do it again.
I think we can do it. I'll talk to my agent.
All right.
We'll have fun. Thanks for coming on, guys.
Take care.
Thank you.